Hello everyone, this is Chino Rodriguez, and today I'm going to show you how to install a virtual manager and create a custom VM. So you're going to have a reference image, so that way you can potentially have all these different test environments with the same VM. So you'll have the all the applications that you installed initially for that image will be on all the other ones. Um, I'm going to show you how to customize it to do that, and then in a future video, I'm going to show you how to use a really neat tool called linked cloning, and that's what's going to allow you to have virtually, unlimited set amounts of VMs. All right, so let's get started. The first thing that you're going to want to do is go to virtualbox.org. Okay, as you can see here, here's the site. When you go to virtualbox.org, if you focus on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of different links. You're going to want to click on the one that says downloads. And then once you click on that link, as you can see here, there's other links for the different platforms. So these are the links for the installers. So if you wanted Windows, you would click on this one. If you wanted Mac OS 10, you click on this one. With the latest version 4.314, they seem to be having some issues with it, specifically with antivirus packages. As you can see here, they already made it clear. It says if you run into problems with the Windows package, please refer to the forum. And if you click on the forum, they have a later build. So as you can see here, they have version 4.3.15. If you click here, it'll prompt you to download and you'll be able to download. Once you download, you want to make sure that you go ahead and scan the application and then install it. I already scanned it, so there's no vulnerabilities. I'm just going to go ahead and launch it. Okay, so we're going to use all the default settings. So we're just going to click next, 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 and yes, and install. Okay, then you're going to click finish. Okay, so when it's done installing, you're going to see the virtual manager. From here, you're going to go ahead and click new, and it's going to ask you to name your machine. I'm going to name mine Windows 7 reference image. All right, because we're going to use this one image, and I'm going to show you this in link cloning. But we're going to have one standard image with all the applications that you want installed on it for all future machines. So that way you don't have to keep reinstalling. And also with link cloning, you don't use any additional resources, but I'll explain that later on. All right, so you want to make sure that you have the correct operating system type. That's correct. And also the correct version and architecture. Let's see here, Windows 7. I think I have a 32-bit, so I'm going to go ahead and I got the Windows 7 trial. And so once you're done, just click next. And then crank this up to, you really only need 2 gigs. I mean, it'll operate on 1 gig, but if you have other applications that might be resource intensive, you want to crank it up. But typically it performs very smooth with just 2 gigs of RAM, but I'm going to crank it up to 4. Click next. And then here we're going to just select the defaults, create virtual hard drive now. Click create. And we're also going to leave the file type the same, VDI. So we're going to leave the defaults. Okay. Okay, so once it's done installing, you're going to get the virtual machine manager and you're going to click on new. Here we're going to name our machine. So I'm going to name mine Windows 7 RI for a reference image. Because I'm just going to create one reference image with all the applications that I want for all future machines. And we're going to use this to basically build the other ones. And so I'm going to introduce you into um, another video to a technology called link cloning. So that way you don't have to install any more operating systems, and you don't have to use additional resources. So it's pretty cool. All right, so we're gonna go ahead with the same Windows type. Here you can select the operating system type. It already has the correct one. And then for the version, I'm going to switch this over to 32-bit architecture because I downloaded a trial version, but it was a while ago and I forgot to indicate it on the disk. So I'll select the 32-bit just to be on the safe side. I click next. You don't need that much RAM. Technically, it'll run with 1 gig. Realistically, you would want 2 because of applications and anything that might be, resource intensive. I'm going to crank it up to 4. I'm really not going to need it, but just um, just to be on the safe side, I'll just go ahead and crank it up to 4. I can't do anything past 4 because it's 32-bit architecture, so it's not going to recognize it. And so if I were to select, let's say, 20 gigs of RAM because I have 32 on the host machine, the system won't allow it to recognize it because it's only 32-bit architecture. Now, if I had a 64-bit architecture, then yeah, I can crank it all the way up and it'll use all 32 gigs. All right, let's go ahead and click next. And we're going to go with the default. So if you're following along, just go ahead with all the defaults. We're going to create virtual hard drive now. We're going to leave the file type the same, VDI. And then here we're going to leave this the same as well, dynamically allocated. Now the difference between fixed and dynamically is with the fixed, if you were to select, let's say for example, 50 gigs of virtual hard disk space. Once you reach full capacity, there's nothing you can do. You're actually going to start getting, warning signs. Hey, you're almost out of disk space, whatnot. And so at that point, you have to either uninstall applications or just, remove um, anything that might be taking up disk space. And so with dynamic, it'll actually, if it reaches full capacity, it'll expand the virtual drive by blocks. I'm not sure what the blocks are. I think it's 256K each block, and it'll just keep doing it in those increments. Um, and you'll never reach full capacity until you actually reach full capacity on the host drive. So if the host drive is actually full, then that's when you'll actually uh, it'll generate an error. But other than that, you should be okay. All right, let's go ahead and click next. Here we're going to change the default. This is the only time we're going to change it. We're going to change it to 50 instead of the 25 and click create. All right, so what I just did, I just set all the configurations for that virtual machine. The only thing we need to do now is actually install the operating system on it. So to do that, you're going to need either a USB, a DVD-ROM, or an ISO from the internet. Like if you go to technet.microsoft.com, you can go ahead and download an ISO, like a trial version. You'll have 30 days to activate it. You have 90 days to use it. Now, as you're coming close to the 90 days, you can run a command called SLM Manager, space tech rearm. And what that'll do, it'll extend it another 30 days. Now, if you were to run the command now, you'll lose the 90 days and it'll automatically just jump to 30. So what that does, it just gives you 30 days from the minute that the command is ran and you can only run it once. I'm not sure if they changed it to twice. I'll have to check their website, but I believe you can only do that once, and then after that, you have to purchase the product or uninstall and then reinstall if you want to continue to use it. All right, so let's go ahead and click settings. And then from settings, we're going to go to storage. So scroll down to storage. And then this is the storage tree. Where it says controller ID right below that, there's an icon. You want to select it. It'll highlight the row in blue. And then you go to the right hand side and you're going to see an icon. Click on it and it'll give you the options to whether you want to select like an ISO that's stored somewhere, or you can select the host drive, the actual drive itself. If you have like a disk, like a DVD-ROM for the operating system. All right, so let's go. I selected the DVD-ROM because I already burnt the ISO onto a DVD. So once you're done with that, click OK, and then we're going to fire up by clicking Start. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. All right, now you'll notice that if I expand the window, it's not going to take full window size capability, what you want to do is after you're done installing the operating system, you go to Devices, and then you scroll down to Insert Guest Additions. Once you do that, it will allow you to basically expand to, full window size, and you won't run into that problem anymore. So we're going to wait for the installation to be done. As soon as it's done, I'll come back and we'll continue. All right, so it just got done loading. Uh, from the install window, just click Next and then Install Now. Okay, so you might want to take some time to read the evaluation license terms. And then once you're done, just click I accept and then click Next. After that, click Custom Advanced. Here you'll be able to see the disk size that you configured it initially. And then once you double check that, make sure it's correct, click Next. And by default, it's going to start partitioning that logical drive into NTFS file format. So that's a new technology file system. All right, we're going to wait for the installation to be done, and once it's done, we'll continue. Okay, so that's done installing, and now you can go ahead and create a user account. So I'm gonna, oh, there we go. All right, I'm gonna just do Chino Rodriguez. And then for the name, you want something that's indicative to the location, or perhaps you already have a naming convention. I'll just do, let's name this Test Lab. Test Lab Machine 1. And then you can continue, name the second one 2, the third one 3, and then keep that naming convention. All right, so let's go ahead and click Next. And here you're going to create your super secret password. I love pizza. All right, you can type in a hint or click spacebar if you just want to bypass it. Use recommended settings. And we're just going to do this for the initial machine. After we're done patching it up and updating the OS, we're going to disable that because the last thing you want is, even whether you're testing, if you have a test environment or if you're mimicking a production environment, the last thing you want to do is fire up the machine and then it starts installing updates, or it install updates automatically without you knowing, and let's say a system driver gets affected and then all of a sudden you're having some type of performance issue. So once we're done, um, we're going to go ahead and disable the automatic update, and you would create, some type of plan where, every 6 months you're going to go in and look for, you're going to update the system, have like a pilot machine where you would update it and make sure that, your proprietary applications don't get affected by any of the updates, and then you run it for a week or a couple of days, however long, you feel comfortable, and then you can go ahead and implement it to the other machines. And so, all right, let's go ahead and select our time zone. All right, click Next and click Work. All right, we're going to wait for this to wrap up, and then as soon as it's done, I'm going to come back here and we'll continue. Okay, so it's done installing. The very first thing that you want to do, if you have an enterprise license that you're testing, you're going to want to go to right click here, go to the system properties, and then you have 30 days. Oh, it's 10 days. I'm sorry. You have 10 days to activate it. I thought it was 30. All right, you click here, activate Windows Online now. If you're doing it on a like bare bone, if you're just doing it on a real box, then you might run into the problem of having to install the network driver first in order to hit the internet. All right, so now we have 90 days. I was right, it was a 32-bit. All right, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna go ahead and install the guest editions. So if you go to the top where it says devices, insert guest editions, You're going to run. Go ahead and click yes. Click next, next, install. Always trust, and then install. That way it won't prompt you. Now this is a test environment. You can get away with that in the real world. You just click OK through each one to make sure that your system never gets compromised with malware. Then once that's done, you're going to go ahead and click finish. It's going to reboot. Okay. So once it logs in for the first time, it'll take uh, full screen capability. All right. So now we're gonna open a command prompt, an elevated command prompt. So you're gonna right click command prompt. I'm sorry. Let's go back. All right. Start menu, all programs, accessories, and then under accessories, you're gonna right click, select run as administrator, and click yes. And so two things just happened. One, it opened it as a elevated command prompt so you can make system changes. And two, you're automatically in the directory that you want to be because we're going to open a system prep tool. So we're going to look for sysprep. I'm sorry. All right, we're going to change direct CD for change directory and then sysprep. There we go. If you click tab, it'll autocomplete. Sometimes you have to tab a few times just to get to the right directory. All right, so then once we're here, let's see what we have in here. Okay, so as you can see down here, this is the sysprep utility. So we're just going to go ahead and type in sysprep.exe and click enter. And this is going to launch the sysprep tool. There it is. It was a bit of a delay. All right, so once you have the sysprep tool open, what you're going to do is you're going to go into audit mode and then click OK. Generalize, I'm sorry. This is going to remove any hardware specific, and audit mode is going to allow you to install applications, and then we can use that for the reference image. It'll kind of record it. So then you go ahead and click OK. You're going to leave reboot option as default. And then once we come back, I'm going to show you, we're going to change it to out of box experience so that each machine that we create through the link cloning video that I'm going to show you that's coming up next, every machine that you open up is going to be out of box experience. So it'll be brand new. You get to rename it, create a new user, rename the machine, and it's absolutely great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then as soon as that restarts and it comes back in, at that point you want to install any application that you want for your reference image, any updates, etc. Okay, so once it boots back up, um, go ahead and select your network again, work network. I'm just going to move this to the side, and I'm just going to install one application just to show you that it'll stick for the reference image. But you would go ahead and install all the applications that you need for that reference image. That way, you don't have to reinstall it. Let's go to Adobe.com. Go to menu, scroll down to where it says Adobe Reader. You got to be careful with the bloatware. Go ahead and uncheck that. Click install. And then typically I save it first. Then I right click, scan it with the antivirus, and then run. Okay, so as you can see right now, I'm logged in under the account of Chino Rodriguez. I'm sorry, administrator. The initial account that I created was Chino Rodriguez. I'm gonna pause the video once this is done, create a reference computer, which you'll see in the next video, and then I'll show you that the Adobe application is there. Or I guess I can just, walk you through it real quick and go into more detail in the following video. All right, so click finish. All right, it's done. Okay. And then remember, at this point, you would do your update. You would do everything you need, any configuration. Another one that I like to do, I like to go into the disk properties, clean it up if you have to, defrag it. Some people go up to the extent of zapping the drive with a system internals utility, and then they get rid of some of the older update packages, and then they compress the VDI. You can do that. That's a bit excessive just for testing. I mean, unless you're really trying to, save disk space because you absolutely have to. But I like to get through my testing as quickly as possible, not go through as much hassle. So, and then when I'm done, I delete my machines and then start over again. Once you have that reference image, is pretty neat because you can continue to use that. I mean, you're really not going to need to update it anymore unless there's an absolute, you know, update that you need, absolutely necessary. That there's a system critical update that you'll need. I wouldn't worry about it because this is a test environment. So, all right, so let's finish this up. All right, so we'll go to Obi, enter out of box experience, generalize, and then we're going to do shutdown. The reason we're going to do shutdown is because we don't want to log back into this machine. We're going to clone it. So go ahead and click OK. Um, this is going to save all your settings. And then once it's done, I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so we're done. I went ahead and created a new one. You're going to see that in the next video. So I'm just going to fire it up so you can see what it looks like for the first time. Yeah, hold on. And the error you just saw, you're going to see how to fix in the next video. First, I have to shut down the machine. And do this. It's basically a security measure that when you link a machine, as I'm doing now, and I'll explain in the next video, the original one you want to disable the hard drive so it doesn't boot, so that you get an error, because you don't want to fire up your reference image because it can mess up the other machines. And I go into great detail in the following video. But we're just going to wrap this up. I'm going to boot into this machine so that you can see that um, everything is identical from the reference machine that I created. Okay, so finally booted. And as you can see, this is your out-of-box experience, so as if it were brand new. All right, we got to create a new user. Let's name this John Galt. For all you Atlas Shrugged fans out there. All right, can't wait for the movie production to come out. The book 3, it's coming out, I believe, sometime next month. All right, so we named the previous one, I believe it was Test Lab Machine 1, so we'll name this one 2. That way, if we connect it to the domain, and you know what, doesn't matter because 1 is never going to get connected now that I remember. All right, so but it's good to get into the habit of always having a different number, for your naming convention. That way, if you do connect them all to the domain at the same time, you don't get any errors. All right, so let's go ahead and click next. Super secret password here. I love pizza. All right. Okay, make sure you read your EULA. Next. Ask me later. Work. All right. So you want to make sure that that very first time for the reference image, you get everything down packed, everything that you need. Kind of like that old adage, they say measure twice, cut once. Mine's is test twice, deploy once. All right, there we have it. All right, so you got the application that you installed from the reference image, and it's a new user. This one's John Galt. The only thing we would do different is if there was a domain, you would actually have to connect it to the domain. It wouldn't automatically connect it. So, you would come here. You also got to go through the activation again. So we'll activate it. This will give us our 90-day. Now, the only way around this, if we were doing like actual imaging for deployment, you can have like an XML answer file that will plug in the license key. And so, but because it's a VM and we're just imaging that, that's why you have to go through this. All right, but let's see. I wanted to cover one more thing and I can't remember what it was. Okay, so had a senior moment there, but I think I covered it all. All right, so stay tuned for the next video where I show you how to do the link cloning, how I performed um, this clone right here, which is I'm really excited about that. As you can see here, everything is exactly the same, other than it's a new user and a new machine. So Tesla machine 2, Tesla machine 2. All right, this is how you create a custom VM. Thanks for watching.